Hey, welcome to day 5 of digging in my yard until I stop finding bricks. Some people might be confused as to why I'm doing this. It's not just because I like digging up grass in my yard. It's because every time I dig in this yard for the last year that I've lived here, I find brick wherever I am on the property. So the other day when I hit brick here, well, there, I decided, you know what? I'm just going to dig until I dig out all the brick. So each day I fill one wheelbarrow worth of dirt and I'm gradually digging out whatever this brick is. I don't know if it's going to be a path, if it's just literally brick that somebody laid down and then piled dirt on top of. Who knows? So one of my more recent obsessions has been the idea of steelman arguments. So a lot of people, when they're engaging, especially in like political discourse and debate, will utilize straw man arguments. And I think most of us have heard that term, straw man. And it's basically when you are purposefully arguing or debating against or just describing your opponent's position as something that they don't actually hold, or is a like weaker version of their actual position. And this can be contrasted with a steelman argument, which is when you purposefully make and then debate or argue against the strongest version of your opponent's position. And the reason this is more difficult is because you actually have to take the time to understand what your opponent believes. Sometimes you have to take the time to understand why they believe it. And in formulating your steelman argument, you should be coming at it with as little bias as possible. So obviously you have your own position, but you should remain open to the fact that your opponent may be right, even though that's probably not what you're going to think, for the purpose of developing the steelman argument. And the reason I think this is important is because I think there can be benefit of debate, argument, discussion about topics that we hold various or different opinions on. And that is to change people's mind. Like, if your only goal in discussing something with somebody like abortion or immigration or any of the political hot topics is to yell at strangers on the internet, straw man arguments are the way to go, right? Like, that is going to get you what you need to yell at strangers on the internet, make yourself mad, and make them mad. While accomplishing, I would argue, nothing. Now, if you want to change their minds and you want to convince people to change to your position, right? Like, if your goal is actually to get more people on your side, that is not something that is best done with force, which it becomes more and more apparent every day that people don't necessarily understand. That is something that is done with convincing. You want to convince your opponents to switch to your side, not force your opponents to switch to your side. History does not look fondly on those that have forced their opponents into aligning with their own position. Not to say that that's never happened and never been the right thing, but like, it's generally not the most effective way of doing that and maintaining peace and no violence. So I think it's best to approach things from a direction of trying to convince people to take your position. Now, if you are wanting to convince somebody to change their position, their opinion on something, etc., I believe that it is extremely important to first understand what their actual position is. Because if somebody was coming at you and trying to get you to change your opinion on something and saying, well, you believe X, Y, and Z, and you're like, I don't believe that. Like, that's not what I believe. You obviously haven't even taken the time to understand what I do believe. Why am I going to all of a sudden listen to you? You don't understand what I believe. How do I know, if you haven't even taken the time to understand that you've actually taken the time to rationally think through your position and think of ways that it might be wrong, etc., right? Like, you are not very likely to win over people's hearts and minds, which is kind of what I refer to this as, with that strategy, if you can even call it a strategy. Come on, Root, break. So, I believe that if you want to debate somebody on some sort of a contentious topic like that, and you actually have the goal of convincing them, right, and not just like yelling at each other on TV or on the internet or whatever, then you need to develop a steelman argument of theirs that you can argue against, right? That's not to say that like you're saying they're right. It's you actually understanding what they believe, why they believe it, and developing the strongest argument that they have for their position. And then you debate against that. So instead of debating against the straw man, which is often a position that they don't even hold, you are debating against the steel man, which is either going to be the position they actually hold or is an actual stronger argument for their position than their specific set of beliefs. So, I just think that is a better way of maintaining discussion. It's become something that I am relatively obsessed with right now. And I've been starting to go through the list of contentious political topics. Again, things like immigration, things like abortion. I got the idea originally from a creator, Clint's Reptiles, who some folks that follow this channel might also follow, who did this talking about evolution versus the young earth creationist viewpoint. So, things like that are like your typical very, very touchy topics that people don't like to discuss are things that like people hold very, very strong beliefs on, and because of that, that's where we have the most division, the most argument in our country. And I'm also a person that thinks that when you have so many people with so many different opinions on something, that the solution you are going to find is not going to 100% appease either side, right? So, in order to find an adequate solution, and again, not just argue and yell about it on a campaign trail for decades, you have to understand where they're coming from, understand what's most important to them, and then be able to develop a solution from that. And if you do that, I think you have a much better chance of finding a solution that is going to be more widely accepted than if you're just trying to shove your particular position down people's throats. So that's a little task I've been trying to do recently. I invite other people to do the same. Like I said, I'm trying it with some things like abortion, immigration, taxation, evolution. Like I said, is one that I would do typically, but that's something that like somebody else who I respect a lot and did a better job on it than I could have has already done. So I'm just trying to do this so that I can both better understand both sides, right? Like I'm trying to develop not only a steel man for like the pro-choice people or the pro-life people, but for both. And hopefully that can give me a better understanding of the actual beliefs of both sides, the actual like validity of both sides, and be able to talk more intelligently about it to people again on both sides. So that's kind of what I'm working on. I invite others to do the same and let me know like what you find. Like, are there interesting things about some like typically untouchable subjects that you found that were like unexpected about certain perspectives or points of view? Have you tried this exercise before? Are you interested in trying this exercise? I think it's a very interesting thing to do, and part of it is you have to have people that are well versed on both sides of the argument or both sides of the discussion to be able to pull from. But it's the end of my talk on that because I am done digging for the day because I filled the wheelbarrow. So we have gotten to here. I'm still hitting brick. Still brick here. So just going to keep on digging this out. I thought these, not sure if you can see this too well in the camera, but there's like a little like raised edge along here of some bricks. I thought that was going to be the edge. So I started digging out between a couple of them that were coming through, and I found more brick. And I'm not sure if that's just like what these edge bricks are kind of laying on, or if it actually goes back further. So I'm trying to not disturb them too much. Some of them are broken already. I'm not sure if that's because of me or how they were. Like this one's broken, that one's broken. So when I'm excavating this, I'm trying to not disturb it too much because I don't know what I'm ultimately going to do. I really like old antique things. So if I wind up digging this out and it looks cool and it just looks like really weathered and old and stuff like that, I might leave it as it is. I also might dig it out and find out that the entire thing just looks like crap and is in complete disrepair because it's been buried under dirt for however long and all needs to be dug up. In which case, I'll do that. Or I may need to just like fix some areas of it. Anything is possible at this point. I'm still finding brick and I don't know how far it's going. I thought that by now, by here, it would have started to like curve towards that way to meet up with like the pavers that were there, but it's not. And also the pavers that are over there are not as deep as this brick. So I'm not sure. I don't know what's going to happen with this thing. But we're on the adventure together. I will see you. I haven't completely decided if I'm just going to make this a weekday project or if I'm going to do it on the weekends also. So might see you tomorrow. Definitely will see you Monday, if not tomorrow. Have a great day.